Freezing. 1, 2, 3, and it's not freezing at all. So scarf can come off, that's all I can remove at this moment. I'll have to sit over there, otherwise, oh.
Hare Krishna.
Not yet. To see you. Just reading.
I switched off the...
Did you?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay. Let's sing one page 164. 164. 164. 164. Prabhu he man durmati sangsara vitare padyachinuami. Durmati sangsara vitare padyachinuami. Taba nija jana kono mahajane pataya dile tumi. Taba nija jana kono mahajane pataya dile tumi. Joya kori more patita dekiya koilo amargiya. Joya kori more patita dekiya koilo amargiya. Oh dina jan chuno balokata ulasata abehiya. Oh dina jan chuno balokata ulasita abehiya. Tamare charite Shri Krishna Chaitanya Navadipe avatara. Tamare charite Shri Krishna Chaitanya Navadipe avatara. Tamahena kata dinahina jane korile na bhavapara. Tamahena kata dinahina jane korile na bhavapara. Vedera pratigya rakibara tore rugmavana viprasuta. Vedera pratigya rakibara tore rugmavana viprasuta. Mahaprabhu name Nadia Mataya Sange Baya Vajuta. Mahaprabhu name Nadia Mataya Sange Baya Vajuta. Nanda Sutta Jini Chaitanya Goshai Nijanama Kodidana. Nanda Sutta Jini Chaitanya Goshai Nijanama Koridana. Tarilo Jagata Tumio Jaya Loho Nija Paritrana. Tarilo Jagata Tumio Jaya Loho Nija Paritrana. Sekata Shunya Siya Chinata Tomara Charan Dole Sekata Shunya Siya Chinata Tomara Charan Dole Bhakti Vinoda Kandiya Kandiya Apana Kahini Bole Bhakti Vinoda Kandiya Kandiya Apana Kahini Bole Hey Mana Durmati Samsar Vittore Padya Chinuami Hey Mana Durmati Samsara Vittore Padya Chinuami Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Anitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Haribol. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Haribol. Jai Saparika Sisi Guru Goranga Sunda Radha Girit Hari Ju Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Jagat Guru Shila Bhakti Sunda Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Bhakti Rakak Shila Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Rupanu Gogura Bhargya Ki Jai. Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Samadeta Vaishnava Mandali Ki Jai. Samadeta Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Kol Kartel Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Jai Gurudev. According to the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there are 64 different articles of worship in worshipping Lord Krishna. And in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is mentioned there 1,000 types of articles to be offered in worship to the Lord. But Guru Maharaj would say that's more a provincial idea, the number of articles and so on, but all important thing is the what is behind that. So condensing all of that down, Mahaprabhu, he gave preference to 5 things in Krishna consciousness. That is Bhagavat Seva, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and serving the Bhagavat devotees of the Lord. Mathura Vasa, living in the holy Dham of Lord Krishna. Archan, worship of the deity of Lord Krishna. Nama Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And what's the 5th one? Turavasa. Oh, no. Can't remember. No, that's not very good, is it? Bhagavat Seva, Mathura Vasa, Archan, Harinam Sankirtan, and Sadhu Sangha. The association of the devotees. So this is, Mahaprabhu considered these 5 things to be the most important articles, if you like, of devotional service. So we know, of course, Nama Sankirtan, that is given preference over everything. It is considered to be in the background of all of our devotional endeavors, must be Nama Sankirtan. When Guru Maharaj gave me my deity and some instruction for worshipping him, he said, without the holy name, then that may just be Jai. Without the holy name, it may just be some formality or just, like waving some burning things in front of the Lord. It doesn't have much value if it isn't accompanied by Nama Sankirtan. So, it is not that we can just play a tape recording of a kirtan and that will be enough and everyone can sleep instead. That won't be enough. I don't know if you've seen, but there's some film on the internet of someone has invented an arty machine that waves the lamp and everything to offer to the Lord. It's like a mechanical machine.
God.
You can just do that and don't even need to get up in the morning, just let it go. So
put it on a timer.
You put it on a timer, have a recording of the kirtan. That's finished. So. But of course, the whole purpose of Nama Sankirtan is to engage us in the chanting of the Lord's holy name. And when we're speaking about the glories of Lord Krishna and his associates, that's also Nama Sankirtan. And everything that supports that is also a form of Nama Sankirtan. But particularly when we are engaged in speaking about the glories of the Lord, then we have to have a little concentration that we will consider Siddhanta and consider the import of what we're saying, that it will be properly in the line of the teachings of our Gurudev. So it's not very good when you start your lecture saying 5 things that are Mahaprabhu considered most essential and you can only remember 4 of them. But it came eventually.
Oh, you actually said it in the first place. You said hearing Bhagavatam and associating with Bhagavatas. So that's Satusanga.
Yeah, they are actually listed separately, Bhagavat Shravan and Sadhu Sangha. But it's true actually. Just hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and serving the Bhagavat devotees. The Bhagavat devotees are our Sadhu Sangha. So not just giving some lip service to any general kind of sadhu, but to the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas are our real friends in this world, the real sadhus that we wish to be interested in them. I was just reading transcripts of Srila Guru Maharaj's talk, a talk that he gave the other day. He said that this boy came to him, and he's dressed himself as a woman, that to make himself like a gopi. Now, this is one kind of imitation sampradaya. They're called Saki Beki. The Saki Beki, they think that if they dress themselves as a gopi, they'll become a gopi. So they said this young man, he came to Guru Maharaj, he's dressed like this, and he said, he told, I've seen Krishna, and not only have I seen Krishna, I've also taken other people and shown them Krishna. You know, there's this place where he reveals himself, and all of these things. And Guru Maharaj said, you're a Brahmin and an intelligent man. Why have you allowed yourself to be contaminated by this foolishness? You think that to see Krishna is such an easy thing? You can't see Krishna with this flesh eye. It's not possible. He's at Hoxaja. You can't see him with this. Why are you thinking like this? And why are you dressing like a woman, thinking that you will become part of his harem? But just by dressing up like this, he said, this is you've degraded yourself by this, and not only are you deceiving others, but you're deceiving yourself, which is worse, that you're deceiving yourself. And Guru Maharaj said, you think about what I've said to you. And he said, then within like 5 days or something, that boy came back, and he'd taken off the woman's dress, and was wearing dhoti and shaved his head, and he said to Guru Maharaj, you please enlist me as one of your disciples now. I've seen the error of my way, so to say. And we also heard from Srila Govinda Maharaj that a similar incident, said when they were preaching with one of Guru Maharaj's godbrothers, and they came across this like group of these. You see them in Vrindavan more, and sometimes in Navadvip also. They're Saki Bekis, these men dressed up as gopis, and some of them are really make really ugly gopis, I have to say. But anyway, they're dressing up like this, and then so one of Guru Maharaj's godbrothers, who was quite a forceful preacher, he said he challenged their leader. You're dressing like a gopi. You're thinking that by assuming the material form of a woman, you'll become that in the spiritual realm. This is, not only is it preposterous, it's degraded. And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, as he was speaking like this to that man, to that lady, if you like, speaking to that lady, he said, then that man he became offended, and he said, then the man came forth. So, though not by imitation can we progress in spiritual life, and not just by conceptualization. There's another group not even really devotees really, but another so-called spiritual movement. And their whole idea is, they think that the soul and the mind are the same thing. And they think that if you conceive of yourself as a spiritual entity, that's all you need to do. You'll act on the spiritual platform then. But what that spiritual platform is, they cannot say. And what is the purpose of their acting on the spiritual platform, they cannot say. Their idea is just moving up and down through the different planes of this material world. But we have come to hear from our gurus that our real objective is the service of Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna's associates, as Krishna is not alone. And everyone in the spiritual realm, they have their master or mistress under whom they serve. So we are endeavoring for that, but in a real way, not just an imagination that we will think in some way. They do this Saki Beki, they do this, they identify themselves with a particular person in the Leela of Krishna, and then according to the Astaka Leela means the divisions of the day, 8 divisions of the day when Krishna is at certain places in Vrindavan, then they meditate on that and imagine themselves to be connected with that. But it is not so cheap. It is not such a cheap thing. Once, when one of Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, one of his disciples asked him, could you tell us about the Astaka Leela of Krishna? And Prabhupada got a little bit excited and he said, where have you heard about this? Like, why are you talking about it? Where have you heard about this? And he said, oh, you've written about it in one of your purports. That's why I was asking. He said, oh, no, well, that's not for you. It's not for you. So, not to, as Guru Maharaj would say, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So we shouldn't be too anxious for these higher things that we have no access to those, and not by right, and certainly not by our adhikar. So we are, from Srila Govinda Maharaj explained, we are following the line of Raganuga Bhakti. The Mahaprabhu's line is Raganuga Bhakti. But it doesn't mean that immediately we abandon all types of vidhi or the rules and regulations and jump into that imaginary world. But rather, we follow the path of vidhi marga, keeping the ragapata or the path of divine love above our head and as our worshipable ideal. And we're not thinking that we will be, or we are fit for that. But we're also not thinking that it is not the property of our gurus. That is the property of our gurus. So, and if they are gracious to us, some admittance to that may come at the proper time. But not by any kind of force or right, or, as Guru Maharaj says, not by any colonizing spirit that you can go there, like an explorer or something, you can go there and colonize that place. But rather that comes down to the devotee at the proper time, according to their inner necessity and according to the divine will of the Lord. It is not something that we can contemplate or imagine. So that is the fundamental teaching of our Guru Maharaj. So all of these higher leelas of the Lord, they will come to us when they are meant to, but until then we are not giving attention to that. Yes, Prabhu?
I just was wondering, this divine reciprocation, or amnaya tattva, does it come to a practitioner for the sake of, like for the service? It's for a practitioner to get more into service, rather, or more like by its mercy, the Lord just reciprocates and shows some aspect of His divinity.
It can be both, but what we can say is that all rights are reserved for the higher devotees and the higher plane of service. So we shall concentrate on our position here and our duty here. So we hear from Raghunath Das Goswami, who's considered to be the Prayojana Acharya of our Sampradaya. Prayojana means the very thing that we're trying to attain. That's called Prayojana, the fulfillment. So that type of service has been designated as the shown by Raghunath Das Goswami. He's the Acharya of that, the Prayojan Acharya. But he says, I firmly engage myself in the plane of servitude, dasya rasa, and I aspire towards sakha rasa. So, but we can understand by his writings that he's firmly established in Madhura rasa, but he's giving that type of indication to us to show an example of a proper servitor. So even that we may consider to be more than even achievable by us. But when that comes, irresistibly when that comes, there won't be any necessity for us to consider the whys and wherefores and all of these things. It will be spontaneous. It will happen spontaneously. But Srila Guru Maharaj said we should distrust ourselves so much that even when that comes, we will be suspicious about that is real or not. So in other words, when some inner aspiration comes in that line, we will need to check with the higher devotee, it's real or it's not real. So Srila Prabhupada, example of Srila Prabhupada was that he said, when I'm in the kirtan, he said, sometimes I feel this inspiration that I should be, like stringing garlands for the divine couple and engaging in this kind of service. And he said, what do you think, Srila Prabhupada? And Srila Prabhupada said, you just continue with your sadhana and with the kirtan, and those things will go away, don't worry. So we don't want to be with imaginary Krishna. We want real Krishna, and real Krishna comes at a real price. It's not we want made in Hong Kong Krishna. That that was a friend of mine that I was friends with in ISKCON. You guys probably remember him. His name was Chaitanya Chandra, and previous to becoming a devotee, he used to be a follower of Satya Sai Baba. So when he told me when he was in India after becoming a devotee, he was in India, and Sai Baba was giving a lecture, or like what do they call, like a darshan or something, in Delhi, and he was nearby, and he just couldn't resist. I have to go and see him, like he'd been so much kind of like part of his life. It was part of his life for so long, and now that person was there in Delhi at some place, and so everybody's lined up, and they're coming up and bowing to him, and he's giving some blessing or something. He had that big afro, and sometimes he'd take things from his hair some vibhuti or ashes or different things, or sometimes wristwatches or all kinds of things he could like manifest from his hair and give to people. So Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, he's like in the queue waiting to see him, but now he's dressed, he's got saffron cloth and a shaved head and tilak and everything, So then he comes up in front, when it comes to his turn, in front of Sai Baba, and Sai Baba says to him, "Oh, you want Krishna? You have come for Krishna?" And he says, yes, I want Krishna. And he said, then it's like from his hair, a murti of Krishna, and gave him that murti. He had that murti. He said, "Here, I'm giving you Krishna," Then my it's not actually what happened, but my take on that is that when he got out and he looked on the bottom, it said "Made in Hong Kong," So, of course, it didn't actually say that, but that was my kind of take on the situation. That Krishna, he's taken from somewhere else, that you can buy in the shop. That Krishna that you can buy in the shop. So like when he gives somebody a watch from his hair, it says like Timex or whatever it is on it. It doesn't say Vaikuntha Watch Company or anything. It's like, it's coming from somewhere else in the material world. So also, that deity of Krishna that he gave him was like made in a metal foundry in Bombay or something. That it was made here in this material world. Just that someone can give us that, by some magic. It was some kind of magic, some kind of mystical power. It doesn't mean that he's given you Krishna. Only the Sat Guru can give you Krishna. And that Krishna isn't something that you can see or touch with your material senses. It is something more than that. Something much deeper than that. And that has its own unique characteristics. So as Guru Maharaj is saying, like when we're chanting the holy name of Krishna, we shouldn't imagine some form of Krishna that we should concentrate on, or some picture of Krishna that we should concentrate. He said, because what our faith is that this sound that has come to us from our Gurudev, it has its own characteristic. It has its own form. It has its own qualities. It has all of these things. They're unique. They're not anything that's produced from this material world. So he said, so if you have a picture of Krishna or something and you're trying to concentrate on that while you're chanting, he said all the other senses, they'll come to that like vultures on the funeral ground, and they'll all claim that yes, this is what your touch, taste, smell, sight, all of these things, this is what you should experience when you're chanting that. But it's not true. It's not that. You have to let the actual real thing manifest there. And it's like nothing of this material world. So even if we say, we have a nice picture of Krishna and we're meditating on that, that isn't Krishna. That's like some idea of Krishna. That when Srila Prabhupada, he had many paintings by his disciples in his books, and one of them was asked Prabhupada, is this what Krishna looks like, actually what he looks like? And Prabhupada's reply was, not exactly, but you'll recognize him when you see him. So
this is like a symbolic representation.
Yeah, like a symbolic representation. Of course, Krishna can appear in that picture. He can accept our service through that picture, or through the deity, or this what we consider a form of Krishna. But from our point of view, we can say it's more or less symbolic of Krishna, emblematic of Krishna. Give us some idea of Krishna towards Krishna. But Guru Maharaj is saying this is not what we should be focusing on when we chant the name of Krishna. Not even the sound that we're producing. It's not by our sound that we're going to get the goal of that. What we're saying when we say Hare Krishna, that's not Krishna. That's a sound representation of Krishna that we're producing. But it's a petition to Krishna. You please come and live in my heart and dance on my tongue. Then Krishna can appear through that holy name. When that chanting is offenseless, then the Shuddhanam will appear, and all of these things will be, you can say, substantiated in our consciousness. The form, the sound, the touch, the taste, the smell, all of these things that relate to Krishna will be substantiated by the will of Krishna, by Krishna's grace. So it is not, Srila Govinda Maharaj says, it is very difficult for us to understand how Krishna and his name are the same. And because we are confounded, we have only a material tongue and we can only make a material sound. So that sound, Krishna, that we make, that isn't Krishna. But Krishna can manifest himself through that sound if he graciously wishes to. Then you can say, in that case, you're not chanting the name of Krishna. Krishna's name is chanting you. It's the other way around. You become overcome by the real Krishna when the real Krishna decides to descend in the form of his holy name. The seed we already have within us by the grace of our Guru. And that we are trying to reproduce, our petition to Krishna. Please come, live in my heart. Reveal yourself to me through your holy name. Again, it is from our position symbolic and emblematic, you can say, leading towards hopefully the real revelation of Krishna by his grace. If we can do away with our offenses in our chanting of the holy name of Krishna, then he may graciously decide to appear to us through the channel of his holy name. And that will be Vaikuntanam, that will be the reality, Krishna, the reality, the beautiful. So Guru Maharaj says, like when we see Lord Jagannath, he said, we see an awkward figure with big eyes and no hands and no legs, but this figure that we see, almost comical figure. But when Mahaprabhu saw him, he saw Brajendra Nandana, the Lord of Vrindavan, playing his flute, and he became lost, staring at him for hours and hours and hours. He's not seeing what we see. He's seeing something else entirely. So the deity of the Lord and all of these things, they're all depending on your level of adhikar. They reciprocate with you in a particular way. But at least we should consider that the Lord is represented here. Just like when you see a photograph of someone that in your family, on the wall there's the picture of grandma, you can say, on the wall or on the mantelpiece. Nobody will say, oh, but that's just, like some pigment and some chemicals, and so that's not grandma, is it? You say, oh, there's grandma, she looks nice, looks like a nice person. And, so this way, it's like something like that from our perspective. Like Srila Prabhupada said, not exactly, but when you see him, you'll recognize him. Through your association with that emblematic form of the Lord, like that. So some description has been given. The ancient sages, they desired to have a vision of the Lord and prayed to him for such. And through their meditation, he manifested that. And then they described that in the scripture, and that was interpreted by an artist, a sculptor or a painter or whatever. He stands in this way, he holds a flute, he wears a peacock feather in his hair, his eyes are like blooming lotus flower, his navel also like a lotus flower. he stands in the threefold bending posture, all of these things. And through that, the artist has translated that into an emblem. So just like, in this world, we can understand what the time is from the clock. But the clock isn't the time. It's an indication to us of what the time is. The book can teach us truths, but it's not the book, is it? The book is just paper with letters on it. It's what's contained, the thought that's contained behind that. So these things are like that. So when we see the deity of the Lord, we are not thinking an idol. An idol means like some graven image, something of this world that we've transformed into something which we think is worshipable. But that's an idol. An idol means, something that isn't divine being mistaken to be divine. But when those sages saw Krishna in their inner heart, and they told that, and the artist interpreted that, then we can see, yes, this is emblematic of the Lord. Just like the photo of Grandma. We don't say, oh no, that's just pigment and chemicals, and that's not Grandma. We say, oh yeah, here's Grandma. But also at the same time, we won't try and interact with the photograph of Grandma. We want to see the real Grandma. So it's like that. When I had my restaurant some years ago, it was in southeast London, and 2 doors down from our restaurant there was a shop called the Afghan store, and there was an Afghani family who lived there. They were Muslims. Sometimes if we'd run out of something in the restaurant, we'd have to go down and buy from there. And she knows that we're the people there, they know we're devotees of Krishna because the restaurant had, some things which indicated that there. So I came in, and the old lady who was like the matriarch of the family, she's there behind the counter that day. And I came in and I said, hello, how are you? And then she says, your religion is wrong. I said, oh, why do you say that? She said, because you worship idols. And I said, oh no, we don't worship idols, we worship Krishna. And she said, oh, who is Krishna? And I said, oh, Krishna is Allah. And she said, oh, what? And I said, have you read Bhagavad Gita? She said, no, I'd never heard of Bhagavad Gita. And I said, so you've never heard of Krishna and you've never heard of Bhagavad Gita, but you say our religion is wrong. And she said, yes. I said, okay. Have you been on the Hajj? I asked her. She said, many times. The Hajj means when they go and they circumambulate the Kaaba in Mecca. So, every Muslim must do that once in their life. Just now I was in Istanbul airport. I was delayed in there for 12 hours. And there are so many people going on the Hajj. They wear the unsewn cloth, all the men wear, and they shave their heads. And met so many of them. Anyway, I asked her, have you been? She said, yes, many times. She said, I've been on the Hajj. And I said, so that Kaaba, is that Allah? And she said, no, it's not Allah. And I said, so why do you bow down to it every day and circumambulate it every day? Or, when you go on the Hajj, you circumambulate it and kiss it and worship it, if it's not Allah, isn't it an idol? She said, no, you don't understand. And I said, you're right, I don't understand. But you also don't understand what is my religion, but you're telling it's idol, worshipping an idol. But someone could equally say that your Kaaba is an idol. You dress it, you worship it, but it's not Allah, then what is it? So symbolic, it's a symbolic representation of something, the ideals, the holy ideals of their religious teaching. So that isn't an idol. when in Jaiva Dharma by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there's a conversation there between the mullahs of Navadvip, the Muslim priests, and the Babajis of Navadvip. So they want to debate, have a religious debate. So they choose one of their mullahs, the most learned, and the Vaishnavas, they choose one of the Babajis. His name's Vaishnav Babaji, I think, to represent, and they have a debate. So then they agree. Okay, then the mullah who's leading the debate, he says, "You claim that your Chaitanya Dev, he has made the Hindu religion perfect." Yes, okay. Then if you say that, then why you have still not given up the worship of idols? Then the Vaishnav Babaji says, "Oh, all right. First thing he says is, okay, let's discuss the worship of an idol." And he said, if you deny a person the worship of an idol, you deny their spiritual progress in life. He said, so an idol is something that you worship as God, but mistaken. So he said, say someone like in India they call them Adivasis, means like the native people who live in the jungle. So say an Adivasi, he sees something like the sun, and thinking, oh, life is coming from the sun, we should worship the sun, must be God. Or they see some strange animal that they never saw before, like a cat, oh, that must be a god, we should worship that. Saying, so their object is wrong, but their idea is right, that there's something more than them that's worshipable. And if you say, no, you cannot do that, then you deny their natural progress, spiritual progress. Because God doesn't see the outward activity, he sees the intention behind it. So the intention is to worship God, but although they've made a mistake in their idea of God, but that will be corrected if they are in time, if they are sincere by the grace of the Lord. So that's the first thing. He says, but then he says, but as I explained before, the same argument that I made, that the form of Krishna, as described by the sages through the scripture, interpreted by an artist or a sculptor or like that isn't an idol, it's an emblem of the Lord. Then he says, but okay, if you aren't able to understand that, my question to you is, how should we worship God? If you can't worship a form of God that represents God, how should you worship God? And he said, then the mullah replies, you should worship God in your mind. Then Babaji asks, is the mind material or spiritual? Says the reply, the mind is material. It's made of some material element, something here in the material world. So he said, so if you worship God in the mind, then what are you doing? You're conceiving of something great, like space or ether or the sky or something, as far as you're able to imagine with your mind, and then you're making an idol out of that and worshipping it as God. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. So then he said to her, that isn't, that's also idolatry. Worshipping something material as something spiritual. So this argument of whether God has a form or is formless will go on forever, because it's based on a purely material idea. That God has a form means something of this material world, like us, flesh, body, like we have. That's a material idea. Or that he is formless, made of something like sky or ether or space or something like that, because we can't conceive of anything beyond that. That's also a mistaken idol. So what the truth is that God has no material form. And the truth is that he is not formless. He has a spiritual form. And that spiritual form is Satchidananda. That's made of truth, eternity and bliss. That is the form of God. Beyond our perception of this material world, we cannot perceive that with our senses. But so God does have a form, but a spiritual form. And that has been described by the seers of truth when the Lord reveals himself to us. So the Lord has that ability to reveal himself to us. Srila Guru Maharaj said, I gave a lecture at the Brahma Samaj meeting once. And after the meeting, one man came up to me and he said, if the finite, meaning us, if the finite can understand the infinite, that's not infinite. And then Guru Maharaj said, my reply to him was, if the infinite cannot make himself known to the finite, then he is not infinite. Because if God is infinite, then he must, within his power, it must be possible for him to make himself known to us. By his will, all rights reserved. Not by us shouting that if you don't appear before me now, I don't believe you exist, that we can compel him. That's also a kind of form of insanity. Thinking like that. That's what we hear, that cry from the atheists many times. If God exists, then I demand that he appears before me now. And if he doesn't, then he doesn't exist. Well, that's something like going to Buckingham Palace and screaming that King Charles must come and speak to me now, or I don't believe that he exists. Pretty soon you'll be taken away in a white van and put in a straitjacket, because everybody knows that's crazy. You can't just demand that the king will come out and see you, but we can demand that God will reveal himself to us. Now, that's even more foolish. All rights reserved by him. But he does have the ability to make himself known to us. And Srila Guru Maharaj gives this example, that right now in this room here, maybe there's an ant running around. And that ant has no awareness that this room has, like 10 people in it. He just sees everything as an object that he has to go around or over or under or, get past. No, he has no perception of us as other living beings, we can say. But if I see that ant and then I touch him, then the ant may think, oh, someone's touching me. May have that perception. So in the same way, we're like ants running around. We have no ability to understand God or who is God or what is God or anything. But if he so desires, he can touch us. Oh, something divine is touching me. And according to his prerogative, he can reveal himself to us, a little or a lot. But there's no possibility of us knowing him in his entirety, because he's infinite and we are finite. Just like this glass of water can only take so much water. Keep pouring it, it'll just overflow. So ourselves, being finite beings, we can only take so much of the infinite. And no amount of finite can ever equal the infinite. I had a girlfriend, and her idea was that if you put all knowledge, all human knowledge into a computer, then that computer would be God. Because it would know everything. But even all of the accumulated knowledge of the human race cannot equal God, cannot equal the infinite. No amount of finite can ever equal the infinite. But we are part of the infinite also. We may be finite, but we are also part of the infinite. So that means we have some purpose for us to realize. And that is our prayojana, or the aim of our spiritual development, is to try to understand that by the grace of God, to invoke the grace of God upon us, that we may be able to understand what is our purpose. So the jiva soul, the finite souls of this world, you and I and every other living being, we are also described in the scripture as being Satchidananda. That means eternal, conscious, and full of bliss. So we can agree on the first two, Sat, that we are eternal. We intuitively we feel that. We feel that we have some eternal existence. It doesn't satisfy us to think that when this life is finished, it's all over. We feel that there's some continuity, because by our intrinsic nature, we are part of eternity. And Chit means I think, therefore I am. I'm aware of myself. I'm conscious of my own existence. But Anandam, bliss, we're all searching after that. That inner fulfillment. We're all searching after that. But sadly, mostly we're looking to external things to give us that satisfaction. External relationships in this material world, things, stuff. Everybody's got so much stuff, and they're thinking that will give them fulfillment in life. People have so much stuff now that they have to rent a storage room, and you see these big storage places that have come up. You have to rent a place because you can't fit all your stuff in your home anymore. You have to store some of it away. This is how obsessed we become with stuff. I heard that Michael Jackson, that before he died, he would go on shopping sprees up in Beverly Hills, like the antique stores or whatever, and he'd just buy these things, something that caught his eye. And he didn't even go to his home. He just immediately went to his storage place, wherever that was. This is like people are just so obsessed with stuff and thinking that that's going to give them fulfillment. A bigger car, a bigger TV, a bigger house, or whatever it is. But we'll only have fulfillment from within us, not from external things. Because we are children of that soil. We're children of the spiritual soil. Then we can only find our inner fulfillment in the spiritual reality, not in the illusory, temporary things of this material world. And that's the only thing that's constant in this world, is change. Nothing is permanent here. Everything is always changeable. Everything is always disappearing. But in a mad way, we're always trying to establish a permanent place in this non-permanent world. We're trying to make a home for ourselves here, but we cannot live here forever. That's why Saraswati Thakur said this world means camp life. Means, like camping. You make some arrangement for your living, some temporary arrangement. Your home is temporary, everything is temporary in the world. We know that. You can't take it with you when you go. So, we're all trying to amass something to make our life comfortable, convenient, and all of these things in the world, because we don't know any better than that. But, Lord Jesus said in the Bible, it says, don't store your treasure where moth and rust will corrupt it, but store your treasure in the house of the Lord. So that is perfect advice. We should try to establish a different kind of account a spiritual bank account, if you like, where we can store our spiritual wealth, because that will continue with us. When we die, wherever we go, that will also go with us. There's nothing here that can go with you, nothing at all. But your spiritual capital, that will take you onward in your spiritual journey. And we are all on a spiritual journey, so we should try to cultivate the things of the spirit, not the things of this material world. So that's the proposal of the Krishna consciousness movement, that we should try to awaken ourselves. So as I was saying, we can agree, yes, we're eternal, yes, we're conscious, Sat Chit, but where is that Anandam? We're looking for that everywhere. Anandam, bliss, happiness, fulfillment. But we're looking in all the wrong places. And so Srila Guru Maharaj says, to exist with no purpose is a worthless malengagement. We must have some purpose in life, and that purpose is to find that Anandam. And that is, Guru Maharaj says, Anandam means the food of the soul. The soul has its own food. Not bread and butter of this world. That's the food of the body, but the soul also requires some food. And that means that the spiritual person must search for their spiritual fulfillment in the spiritual world. So otherwise it's all hollow. It's all worthless, actually. Everything here ends in death. What was that poem that Guru Maharaj used to quote? Thomas Gray's elegy to a country English churchyard. How does it go? The pomp of power, the something of heraldry, all that love, all that beauty ever gave, the paths of glory lead like the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. So that you won't find your fulfillment here in this world. You'll only find frustration here. So you have to cultivate your spiritual nature. Awaken your spiritual nature. That's already within you. It's only a question of awakening it. It's not a question of conversion or belief even. It's a question of awakenment. So spiritual life means to awaken your soul. And spiritual life is beyond any kind of label, or what Prabhupada used to say, rubber stamp religion. We're not interested in rubber stamp religion. Rubber stamp religion means, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew. These are all rubber stamps. We're interested in truth. We're interested in reality. And that's for everybody. That's not a dogma or, a belief system. It's the actual awakenment of the soul. And if your spiritual practice is awakening your inner self, then you're on the right path. We don't claim any monopoly over that. But the Lord can give us that. The Lord can reveal himself in the heart of everybody, because the Lord is one. Like the sun is one, and it's called different things in different places, right? Here we say the sun, in Spain they say sol, in India they say surja, but they're not referring to Indian sun or English sun or Spanish sun. Sun is the sun, right? So we may call God by many different names. Allah, Jehovah, Vishnu, Govinda, Yahweh. It's the same. It's just different language, different expressions of the same thing. We should try to see beyond the superficial. And they say, why should we call God Krishna? That's an Indian God. Why should we say that? No. Krishna is a perfect name for God. It means the all-attractive one. That is God. In his essence, he's all-attractive. He's not an old man with the long beard sitting in the cloud, throwing thunderbolts on the wicked and showering flowers on the righteous. He's the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is Krishna, and that is perfect name for God, Krishna. We like that name very much, the Krishna name, the Krishna conception of God, the search for Sri Krishna, reality, the beautiful. God is reality, and reality is beautiful. And that is Krishna. So we shouldn't think, but that's India. That's an Indian thing, for Indian people. No, it came from India, but why we should be envious about that? Why not? And why is it that all the avatars of the Lord all appear in India, pretty much? Well, why do you go to a golf course to play golf? Because that's what it's designed for, right? So India is designed for that, you can say. It is the place where the Lord shows his pastimes to the world. And it's called Dharma Buddhi, Dharma Bhumi. And the Western world is called Karma Bhumi, where we all try and live out our fantasy. Not to say that everybody in India is completely spiritual or anything like that, but the heritage, the spiritual heritage of India is great. The scripture of India, the Veda, is more than anything, all the other scriptures of the world put together. That knowledge. The American author Mark Twain, who wrote Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, he said, of religions, India is the millionaire. So many religious conceptions come from India. And the highest religious conception, the conception given by Sri Chaitanya Dev to the world, that is unparalleled. That kind of spiritual revelation had never been given in the world before. So then we can say that although this Kali Yuga, the age we live in, is considered to be full of faults and inauspiciousness, the Iron Age, they say, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, where we see that all the leaders of the world, they're all hypocrites, that not one day in the life of anyone in this room has there not been a war being waged somewhere in this world. From the oldest to the youngest of us, we've lived in the world where every day there's war going on. That's the symptom of this age, quarrel and hypocrisy. But at the same time, the revelation of divinity has never been greater. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give 500 years ago, that is enduring and expanding and reaching all corners of the world. So Guru Maharaj would say, quoting a Bengali saying, the rainy day is not the bad day, but the day when we can't hear something about Krishna, that's the bad day. So all of the external things, the bad things that are going on in the world, that's one side. But the other side is great hope and great revelation to the world. Sri Chaitanya Dev's religion of love, religion of universal brotherhood, that has never been given in the world before. And the day will come when all intelligent men and women will happily embrace that conception. We understand it intrinsically. Love is the answer. Everything is solved by love. But what is love? That Mahaprabhu has given. That idea, that definition. So, anyway, I've gone a little over my allotted time, so excuse me for that. Are you ready now? So now we can do Arati and then take Krishna Prasadam. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Jai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Bol.
You can play it under?
Not really, no.
You can play one bit.
There's this lady, she's playing. Yeah, no, but that lady, Lakshmi,
Rani.
Lakshmi Rani, she plays with her.
Okay, bring her in.
Lakshmi Rani. Yes. This thing. So did it. Where is she? Go for it. She can play. Yeah, it's good.
Oi.
Is Lakshmi Rani playing with others?
Jai. Hare Krishna. Bhaja Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurav Bhakta-vrinda Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurav Bhakta-vrinda Yasomati Nandana Rajavarana Gokula Hallelujah. Cool. Yeah.